Hello, desire, any kind of math position to propagate the entire sequence of their propaganda before it actually transfer the data of population to spaceship the entire planet. Oh. Well, in life of our cycle, the math condition of pathology is an equivalent of our sunburn in relation to our data of pos. Because in that way, in relation to our data of pos, the mechanism of illegal hazard has a bilex in relation to its own leather gear. Because in that way, the cow is actually skinless in relation to eating the meat by the herbs and to extend the non-Reuben, because the non-Reuben based upon the data of dottY. The old friend of mine on PHP BB version 1, I met him somewhere by Wotton Law to indicate more animation, learning Flash. Then later on, Flash actually extruded to the highest level that we have never seen, because digitally I was just grown up back in the old days. So nowadays I'm grown, and anyway, since I'm grown, Flash is just an indication of media sublime in relation to our own codecs, because on YouTube it has improved. But back then in the past it was Flash. Now our browser still have a little bit of Flash, but if we can use Flash in relation to our own browser, is it worth it? Well, Flash has ActionScript in relation to Java. So in that way, I couldn't do too much anyway, because I didn't know what kind of design career I wanted. So that's why I started to predict that I fell in love with web design and search engine optimization and graphic design. But that three element is pretty much complete, because when you do too much things in relation to what you really want to do to become a designer, it's too long. So in your way, in your creative thinking, it's a different things to know that the creative thinking is just the way you want to draw. So kind of like this, painters. Did you stick with using Illustrator? Well, you don't, do you? Because you love painting. But if you use Illustrator, it creates your ideas to come up with some more solid color. Because in relation to paint shop, where you go to is just a Wall Street. Because in that relation, when you know that you go to art school, it news agent the oil to convert into a percentages of your paint. So in that way, when you paint wall, when you paint canvas, when you paint strings, when you paint allegation, when you paint things, how creative is your ideas in relation to coming up with more map of canvas. So in that way, in relation to canvas, the painter needs to somehow, look, see where things are. But in time, Leonardo da Vinci owns the pixel of Passau, because the pixel of Passau is just a quinone of knowing how to use kit stuff in relation to handprints, paper textile, work material, and in mineral, your oil paint. So in that way, Wall Street, in the compliance of your own wall, what kind of things can you paint in relation to distilling oil? Because once you have that based upon questionnaire, how can you know that painting solid wall offer you the gray area? That means what? So, in time in life, we are the only one to measure that we run out of ideas. So, once we do that, what is our next avalanche? To know that on the TV, the news reporter indicate the avalanche to let us know to save us instead of going there by a certain time. But then again on TV, it's just a portrait of portraits. So in that way, how can we see for the things that we need to unknown in relation to traveling to avalanche, then snow boat or snow ski in relation to civilize of freeze rain? Does that help you guys to come up with a fresh idea? Because in nature, it freezes when it's so cold, our skin. So we wear coats and shoes and whatever, boots and stuff like that. But in that time, if it helps to generate an idea, then you do a sketch. But then again, I'm a digital artist, I can't sketch. So which way will help you to come up with a sketch cosmos? So in that way, when it does that, it will minimize the thinking. So when it does that, it actually ray into the sunbands and seeing shadows of the sun, shadows of the tree, shadows of the Pluto, shadows of the mountain, shadows of, kindergarten, shadows of roads, shadows of things that we see every bloody day. And in that way, since things we see every bloody day, what else are we what else are we going to do to come up with a new fresh idea to paint a portfolio? So artist, in relation to your own avalanche of avalanche, do you know that in nature you prefer portrait, which is faces of human? So in that way, when you look at faces of human, how do you predict that he, she, it, boy, girls are the same? So in that way, Pikachu, in relation to your artwork, how do you come up with idea to express your emotion? And in that time, Leonardo and Ralph cannot daddler the next cube in relation to no power of thinking. So in that way, in relation to no power of thinking, CMOS, orbital, the next way to design intelligent. So in that way, when you see things that you know of, that you grew up with, that you've grown for, then there's nothing more you can do. Neither can I. So in that way, when you feel that you have not been presenting into owning a photographer to sell an account of pyramid table, then in that way the 3D vision of impairment based on thinking of a plot will maximize or far away of nothing to do. So in that way, creative people, artists, being an artist, you are measuring the creative thinking to penalize Wall Street in relation to stocking, paintbrush, and accounting, soil to and paint by Parker. And in that way, when you do that, it shiver through your textile in relation to your canvas. But in relation to your textile, in relation to your canvas, each paint stores your brush. When it does that, by the time the paint